All right, great. Well, let's get started then, and then if anyone joins, we can catch them up. Just since it sounds like you guys don't have a whole lot of experience with the company, I can go over really quick, what our goal and what we're trying to do. So kind of sounds like similar to both of you. My background was much more on the data science, machine learning side, and I became pretty fascinated with the financial markets and applying those techniques to trading quite a while ago. And I was working at a brokerage where I was working with a lot of other clients and a lot of brokers using those techniques to come up with their own proprietary strategies. And really what I found was there wasn't a very scalable way where I could build and test these models without basically starting from scratch every single time. So our focus is to make it very easy to leverage these algorithms to build your own trading strategies. And one of the core tenets to what we believe in is really a focus on transparency. So having an understanding and being able to look inside what the algorithms are actually doing. So really the process that we'll go through, the process that we utilize and the platform is based around is much more a variation of association rule learning. So basically letting the algorithms do the analysis for us and then deriving rules based on the information that they found. So we see a couple advantages, the big one being you have complete understanding of what the algorithms are actually doing, how the strategy works, and you're not really relying on a black box strategy that unless you are involved in the development from the beginning, don't have a great understanding of how it works. So it's kind of always easier to show rather than tell. So as we go through this, really like to make this as an open discussion as possible. So if you have any questions or comments or would like me to expand on anything, since there's a small group of us today, happy to do that for you guys. So just a quick check. Are you guys able to see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, great. So yeah, if you guys haven't logged in yet, it's all a cloud-based platform. So right now we're broker agnostic, so meaning whatever broker you're using, you can log in and check it out. And the account right now, it's free to use. However, that's going to be changing here shortly. We've gotten a lot of interest and seeing some great traction in terms of our users. So kind of the free ride may be coming to an end shortly. So I definitely recommend playing around with it now in the next couple weeks. So here's kind of the home page. You can see some strategies that we've created before, but let's go through the process of building a new strategy here. So similar to what we would use in a more traditional trading platform, you first want to select the underlying data. So for this strategy, let's say we want to trade the Euro USD and we want to build this off a 4-hour chart. So that's really kind of where we now is where we diverge from a more traditional platform. So the starting and end date are the date range that we want the algorithms to analyze to find the underlying patterns in the indicators that we'll select. So there are really 3 things that you want to consider when you're choosing this date range. So the first thing is, you want it to be relevant data. I'm sure you guys know, the importance of that coming from the machine learning world, as well as the importance of having enough data for the algorithms to actually find some meaningful patterns. But one of the areas that we always really want to emphasize is the importance of out-of-sample testing. That's really one of the areas where a lot of individual and less experienced traders get caught up, where they're testing and building the strategy over the same date range and just end up terribly curve fitting. So what I like to do is have a couple years of data to use. So let's just go back to 2012. Our data right now currently goes back to 2010, and we'll be adding more data shortly if you guys are interested in that kind of going back farther historical data. And then I want to leave the last 6 months for out-of-sample testing. So basically, I'm going to build my strategy up January 1st, 2015, and then use the rest of 2015 to see how well the strategy is going to perform, over data it hasn't seen before. So the next, process is choosing the actual indicators or inputs to the strategy. So usually you would bring up, your chart, bring on a couple technical indicators and try to figure out the patterns yourself. So basically, we're using things like commodity channel index or an RSI. We look at the chart and say, all right, when the RSI is over 70 and the CCI is between 20 and 30, then that looks like a good time to go long. But with our platform, we're letting the algorithms do the work. So we choose a couple of technical indicators. I'm also going to use a simple moving average here. And we're looking at the difference between the price and where the SMA is. It's 20 periods for the SMA. So what we're saying is we want the algorithms to find the relationship between the three indicators we've selected, where the price is compared to a 20-period SMA, the RSI and CCI, and find the relationship between them and the price movement of the Euro USD on a 4-hour chart over this date range. So that all makes sense so far?
Just a quick question. We have some standard databases that we're using for all of our back testing. Is there a way to import different HST files, for example?
Yeah, so that's definitely a function, a feature that we'll be including shortly is being able to load your own data. Right now, all of our historical data is coming from FXCM, but obviously it's important that you have the data using the data that you want to use in your live trading. So if that's something important to you, and we've gotten some requests for it as well, we can move that to the top of the backlog in terms of upcoming features.
It's not a major thing, but since we're doing testing other algorithms with a certain group of data, it's kind of better to have the same, data set for everything.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's make this full screen.
And there does seem to be a lot of variation from one to another.
There is, especially in the FX market, since it is decentralized. And really, the way that we look at it is you always want to be using data as close to what you're going to be trading with live as possible. So some brokers are better than others about providing historical data. FXCM, luckily, has a pretty reliable data source. So so basically, instead of me trying to sit here and try to figure out the relationship between all these indicators and the price move of the euro, we can let the algorithms do the work for us. And just a quick insight into the back end, the algorithms that we're using an ensemble of classifiers. So these are a couple algorithms like a support vector machine or Ripper rule learners or random forest that we've built that we found are particularly good for this type of analysis. So once the algorithms analyze the data, we can brought to the dashboard. So here's where we see the three indicators we selected, the CCI, RSI, and where the price is relative to a 20-period SMA. The x-axis is going to be the indicator values. And then what's really interesting is we're able to see where the algorithms found the strongest bullish and bearish signals. So for each indicator value, we can see where the algorithms found to go long, as well as where the algorithms found to go short. So now to build my strategy, I'm basically going to create my rules directly from these histograms. So I'm going to find areas where the algorithms found a strong buy signal, and then I'm going to select that as my first long rule. So what I'm saying is every time the CCI is between -130 and -43, I want to go long. And so instantly we can see how well that strategy would have performed over the date range we selected. We can see the computer's struggling a little bit with the WebEx running. We can see the statistics on the strategy as well as the rules written out. But what's really interesting, and I'm not sure if you noticed, but once we selected our conditions for the CCI, we're able to see how that affected the other indicators. And so what our platform is great at, and what these algorithms are really good at, is finding the relationships between the inputs. So while the CCI is between -130 and -43, what patterns are we able to find in the RSI, for instance? So we can see here that there's a strong signal when the RSI is between 34 and 42, as well as 42 and 49. So we'll set those as our second conditions to the strategy, and then move on to the final indicator, the price minus the 20-period SMA. So this is going to be the number of pips that the price is over a 20-period SMA. So in this case, we want to only enter in trades when the price is between 24 pips below and 24 pips above the simple moving average. Just like that, we have the strategy, much smoother equity curve. Really what I like to keep an eye on is return per trade, and that's including transaction costs. So if we want to play around with this, we can see how better or worse spreads are going to affect it, as well as if we want to add different account sizes, can play around with that as well. So in terms of that workflow and the process of building the rules to your strategy, does that all make sense?
Just a question on the curve, the price minus SMA. Why didn't you pick the other one that's the dark green color?
Yeah, so we can play around with the strategy as well. So it's it's easy. It seems like we have a strong signal strength. So if we select that as another condition, it looks like our return did go up to 802. I see the return per trade went down pretty significantly. So that's really what I like to optimize for. So you can really spend a lot of time going through, and it's very easy to test these different rules and different conditions, and really fine-tune the strategy to your own liking. Some of our users are much more interested in high accuracy, whether others are interested in the absolute return. I tend to optimize for the return per trade, but we can play around with it a little bit more here. Let's see what we're looking at in terms of the RSI between 49 and 57. See how that affects our strategy. Yeah, again, saw the return per trade go down quite significantly, so wasn't really the best rules that we're going to want to include. So take that off here.
So in other words, you really didn't know which ones to pick, but by quickly, interactively selecting them, you can determine tweak.
Exactly, and we get a great jump start with the algorithms, giving us that signal underneath. But yeah, you're right. It's very easy to see quickly what we should be selecting. Then we can repeat the same process, looking to go short. So we can see right off the bat that looks like there's some good. I usually like to look for groupings of strong signals. So I'm seeing here that there's 3 bars in a row on the RSI where the algorithm's found a really strong short signal. So I'll set those as my beginning short conditions, and then see, holding that constant, what patterns really emerge for the other indicators. One of the other things that you really want to be conscious of, so I should have made this a little clearer in the beginning, is that the green bars, are the number of bars that actually closed up in that indicator range, and the red bars are the number of bars that closed down. So we can see that there was about 376 bars that closed up versus 411 bars that closed down. So when we're looking to go short, we're not only keeping an eye on the strong signal strength, but we're going to look for a large disparity between the number of long and short bars for that indicator range. So in that case, this 130 to 210 is much more attractive than 43 to 130, where I'm not seeing a huge difference. So yeah, and like you mentioned, it's very easy for us to go through, and then looks like with the price minus the SMA, we might want to refine this a little bit. So this is really almost a perfect scenario for what we're looking for, very strong signal strength and a huge number of more short trades than long trades within that indicator range. So we'll set that as our second condition. Let's keep an eye on what our return per trade is like. So 277 is looking pretty good. Let's see if we can further refine it. We'll check this one out. Oh, so that definitely did not help the strategy. So I want to take that rule out of there. And I want to just try one more. So you can really spend a lot of time in diving down into these indicators and trying to find that more optimal combination of rules. But this looks pretty good. Things that I always look for are, like I said, return per trade, always nice to have above 50% accuracy, and you want to have a similar number of long or short trades, so to help reduce the bias of the market. But, just like that, we have the rules of our strategy, relatively smooth equity curve here, but obviously the most important part is going to be testing this over live data. So what I'm able to do here is generate an EA with the rules that I just built. So this allows me to export this to MetaTrader. This is the expert advisor code right here, so you can play around with it yourself if you'd like. But we're able to generate that EA based off that strategy. So if I download that, then I can save it, and this is going to be a .mq4 file. So one thing to note is that in order to make it as consistent as possible between Trade and MetaTrader, we obviously want to be using the same indicators. So before you run these EAs, we have to install a DLL import. So we're using TRAIDE-MT4. Are either of you guys familiar with that?
Yeah.
Okay, great. So yeah, we built a MetaTrader 4 DLL with TRAIDE-MT4 that you can use both in trade and in your own trading. So if you'd like, I can step through the installation process. If not, we can go straight to MetaTrader. It's pretty straightforward. You just download the file and put the DLL and indicators into the directory. So I'm not sure if we need to step through that. Are you guys familiar with getting to the directory in MetaTrader 4? It can be a little bit more difficult on a desktop than it is on Mac, but
yeah. Once you find the file directories, it's easy.
Exactly. So we found a good process. So if I'll bring it up here. Yeah, it's once you find the directories, it's easy. So, but that's obviously the tricky part. Just wait for this to open. Yeah. I always want to find a couple different ways to do it. So the easiest way that we found, which unfortunately does not work on a Mac, or at least with the emulator that I'm using, is if you go to the Open the Data folder, you can see the MQ4 file right here. And so it's really just a matter of clicking and dragging the files from the DLL into the libraries and indicator folders here. So fairly straightforward when you're using Windows. But let's go back to our EA, open our meta editor here. So what I'm doing now is I just want to test my strategy over the last 6 months of data just to make sure that it's performing well, and I can be a little bit more confident running it over new data or putting it on a live account. Go here. So I save that to my desktop. It's going to be called Trade Advisor. Open that up. Make sure that it's saved in our experts folder. Should compile okay. And then if we go back to our terminal, we can see it here. So a couple other things. The template that we export, there's going to be some inputs that you want to be aware of. So currently with trade, we're assuming that you're getting in at the open and out at the close of every trade, of every bar. So your holding period is basically your time frame. In this case, we have a holding period of 4 hours for each trade. Obviously, it doesn't make sense to get out at the close of a bar if your conditions are still met, so it'll stay in a trade. So if you're looking for the most consistent results, what you've built on the platform, really easy just to choose bar close, or if you want to use a more traditional take profit or stop loss, we can do that. So just to see how it performs, just to make sure it goes well, we can set the bar close. Also play around with position size, maximum spread, and the magic number to help you keep track of all your strategies and EAs. So since we've built our strategy up to January 1st, 2015, I'm going to use from January 1st, 2015 up until today, or I guess yesterday, to test the strategy. So what I'm looking for is, consistent performance that I saw building my strategy as it is over new data. So I'm sure you know the importance of this out-of-sample testing step. Do you guys do a lot of out-of-sample testing, or do you follow more into the Trade It Live on the demo account?
No, I always do out of
sample.
Yeah, me as well.
Yeah, that's probably the most important step, and that's something that we're going to be supporting in the platform very shortly. So make it a lot easier for you can do this testing, right on trade. One of the benefits of doing it in MetaTrader is you can spend more time optimizing your risk and money management as well. But in this case, we can.
Now here you're trading is a fixed size,
Yep.
fixed lot size on each trade. If I wanted to add code to, based on some other money management to vary that, we'll go into the EA and make adjustments there, or how would you do it?
Yeah, so that's absolutely doable. So really the only area that we take care of are the signal generation. So the trade rule 0 is to go long, trade rule 1 is to go short, and then that's going to return 1 or -1. So as long as you pop that code in your EA, everything else, very easy to do in terms of your signal greater than 0, you want to go long, signal less than 0, you want to go short. So one thing to do, that I do want to point out, is the indicator library. So you're now able to use all of TA Lib's indicators right in MetaTrader. So as long as you allow DLLs, it's basically the same process, just a number of inputs in there. We found that MetaTrader is not extremely transparent about how all the indicators are calculated. So unless you want to go through and make a custom indicator by hand for each one, this is a much more scalable solution, and it's a lot easier to use. These, but if we look at the report, we can see that we were able to, we were above 50% profitable, and we were 50% accurate, and we were profitable. So usually what I like to do is make sure that we are seeing decent performance there, and then really where you can improve is by playing around with, like you said, the risk and money management, take profit or stop loss. So if we just do a very simple 2-to-1 ratio, I usually see that improve the performance as well. But that's basically it. We started out with an idea of a couple indicators we want to trade. We used the algorithms to find the patterns in those indicators. We were able to generate the EA and then come up with a strategy that performs well out of sample. And we really want to make that process as smooth as possible.